Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Macro Mondays with your host, Jay Gagan, alongside your co-host, Dominic Ryder, the CEO of VEMP Studios. Dominic, happy Monday. How are things going over there in London town?
Not bad. It's nice and sunny, as you can tell by a strip behind me, but I don't quite know.
Yeah, I see the strip. You know what, man? It is absolutely raining here in Southern California, which is not characteristic, but we're happy to see that you guys got some sunshine. A lot of stuff going on in the crypto space, as well as just the macro economic space, which is why this is called Macro Monday. So we're going to be talking about Elizabeth Warren. I want to get your hot take on it. Saudi Arabia, a lot going on with Saudi Arabia, a lot going on with America and tensions there. Russia's getting involved as well as a lot of questions with the US dollars. If you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them here in the comments. My guy Alfalfa's on. How we doing? Mr. Marty is in the chat as well, guys. As always, make sure to smash that like button when you guys come into this stream today. Dom, I have to start the stream by some mysterious tweets that we saw go live on April 1st. Was this an April Fool's joke? What was this? VEMP? May? Talk to me, Dom. What is this about?
I'm not saying my lips are sealed. It is what it is. Take from it what you will. That's the tweet.
You can't tell us?
Nope.
Really?
I can, but I'm not gonna.
Okay. I wasn't expecting that, Dom. I thought this was an open book. I thought that we were, telling everybody everything, but you can't tell us.
You were sorely mistaken, my friend. You were sorely mistaken.
So some big stuff coming for VEMP in May is what we're going to believe here. Let's take a quick look at the market over here, Dom. 1.17 trillion market cap. Bitcoin at 28K, holding 28K. Ethereum right around 1,800. BNB 310. XRP, one of the tokens that's having the strongest month so far at 50 cents. Cardano at 38 cents. Dogecoin is at 7 cents. Solana at $20. Dom, talk to me about the market. How are you feeling today? We're holding around 28K Bitcoin. What are the liquidation charts saying? What are we feeling today when it comes to the global cryptocurrency market?
I did actually, I haven't looked today, but I pulled off all of the liquidation charts yesterday. Unfortunately, not much has changed really. I mean, they're looking a bit more neutral than they were on the short-term timeframes. Still have a decent amount. Let's get up the 7-day and let's look at it live, shall we?
Let's do it.
Let me share my screen. Which one of my 4? Chrome tab. There we go.
Here we go. We'll pull up his stream.
Yeah, if anyone wants these, it's High Block Capital. It's fairly pricey. I think it's like $69 a month for the lower package, and then up to 150. I don't know the difference.
Well, that's why we don't need it. We just have you, and we get it for free when you come on the streams every Monday. So
get this here. So just updating them to make sure that taking in as many. So this is the 12-hour. So trades that have been placed within the past 12 hours. As you can see, everyone is bullish, which is not necessarily a good sign, with the biggest liquidations to the downside of 27875. And then, it's up here. There's not really a lot to get up there. So that's the 12-hour on Bitcoin. If we look on the 7-day, this one's a bit more mixed, but it was looking, there was more pain to be had to the upside before again, and now it's not looking as, everyone's bullish, like I say, which means that now the hottest place is 27.3, 27.4 down here. But it used to be that up here with 29.4, 29.5, this was where I've been saying for a while that we could hit here, because this used to be a lot more liquidity versus the downside. But looks like everybody is getting more and more bullish, and now it seems to be flipping more.
So you said we could hit that 29.5K.
Yeah, I thought if we were going to get there, I thought it would be last week, to be honest.
Nice.
But we didn't. And now, as you can see, because since it's a 7-day look back, it only looks back at what's been placed in the past 7 days. So
yeah, the
longer it goes on without hitting it, the more people start to load up to the downside, because they think it must, if it's not got there yet, then it's going to, and if it falls down. So everyone's loaded up now below the 7-day
Doom.
And
Doom
the 7-day
King
low is like 27.5.
Let me ask Doom King. Guys, welcome everybody to the chat. 35 people in here. Make sure to hit that thumbs up, guys. Let's get up to 30 likes. Spread this around with more people on YouTube. Doom King, is it safe to say that you're more bullish now than you were in the past month or so? Are you feeling bullish? You're saying everybody's feeling bullish. It sounds like you're still bearish. Are you not bullish right now, Dom? We're about to hit 30K Bitcoin. How are you feeling?
I'm not bullish because everyone is bullish. If everyone is bullish, it's time to sell. Be fearful when others are greedy.
True. But is there a chance that we're bullish because we've been through a terrible bear market and prices have increased a little bit? I agree with that statement when we're at a 69K Bitcoin in 2021, right? That's when you should be fearful when others are greedy. But now it's like people are just slowly flipping bullish. It's not like we've been bullish for a while. The markets are looking better than they did.
I would argue that this is a false sense of security, and I'll tell you for why. Let me see if I can get it on Twitter. But it's the exact same reason that here we are. I'm not sure if it's showing the tab or let's get onto my thing here.
I don't think we see it yet. And chat, let me know, guys. Let me know in the chat, guys. How are you feeling today? Are you feeling bullish? Are you feeling bearish? Let us know here in the chat. I want to see what the pulse is of the audience. And as always, make sure to hit that like as well. And here we are. What do we got here?
So, like I say, everyone is suddenly talking about the dollar, and everyone's talking about like the collapse of the dollar, and the fact that Saudi, BRICS, BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and more have all these partnerships, and they're all starting to trade since the Bretton Woods Agreement at the end of the Second World War. The global reserve currency has been dollars, and then in the 50s or 60s, could have been 70s even, Henry Kissinger from the US went over to Saudi Arabia and said, if you price your oil in dollars, we will protect you. And from then on, every single country in the world, in fact, someone asked me to talk about the dollar milkshake theory.
Is that the Missy Elliott, my milkshake brings all the boys to the yard theory? Or no?
It is. If the yard is dollars, then yes. So essentially, the dollar milkshake theory is the fact that when do you need to buy currencies that aren't dollars? When you go on holiday, right?
Yes, when you travel.
If you're a company owner, the same question: when would you need to buy any other currency?
When you open a business out of your state, out of your country?
Yeah. Or you, for some reason, you need, like, you're a supermarket and you want to buy French cheeses. And you can't buy them in dollars. So it's exports and imports. That's like the only thing. And what does every country in the world need? Food, energy. What are those priced in on the global markets?
The dollar.
Exactly. So you've got all of this buy pressure for the dollar. And how do people buy the dollar? They buy the dollar by selling their currency for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so as the dollar gets more and more expensive, which you had during the beginning of COVID, then it created with the Fed printing money, and then it rose back up again with them raising rates. So as the dollar gets more expensive, because the IMF and World Bank give loans to poor countries in dollars, and then when they have to pay them back, if the dollar is rising, they have to sell more of their currency in order to pay the same debts, because the dollar is stronger and their currency is weaker. So in order to pay their debt, they have to print more of their own currency, which inflates it, devalues it, and then they're selling it even more for the dollar. So it's a self-perpetuating cycle of print more money because the dollar's got more expensive. My currency drops, dollar goes up. Dollar goes up, I need to pay more interest in dollars. I sell more of my own currency, buy dollars, dollars goes up. So it's a self-perpetuating cycle, because the milkshake theory is that everybody's hoovering up dollars because dollars are flight to safety. So when everything was going terribly, because the dollar for so long has been the global reserve currency, it's what people buy because they feel safe buying assets in the global reserve currency and buying assets in the US stock market, which is the strongest in the world. However, what the theory that argues against that is the theory that the dollar will lose its global reserve currency status. So that's like the two sides of the argument. So a lot of people are saying the dollar's on its downfall, which is arguably true. I'd say I used to subscribe to the dollar milkshake theory because every other currency, I mean, the dollar is like every fiat currency is terrible anyway. But what you have, at least with the dollar, is that other people need it to buy other stuff, like energy, for one. Like, that's the most important thing. That agreement that Saudis made with Henry Kissinger, that is like single-handedly the reason for the US's success. Those deals that were struck back then, Bretton Woods and Henry Kissinger's agreement with the Saudis, that's like the whole reason why the US has been able to be as strong as it is, because it's had control. But the problem is, and why I'm questioning the dollar milkshake theory now, is due to one thing I've mentioned a few times, the terrible decision of the IMF to loan money to Ukraine. The IMF is supposed to be independent, and it's never once loaned money to any country in a conflict before, until now when it lent it to Ukraine. And this is the weaponization of the dollar.
Yeah.
And funnily enough,
how much did they loan them?
I don't know how much it was, but they'd never loaned any other country who was in a conflict money at all. So it's the principle. And they also froze the central bank of Russia's assets, and like 600 million or 600 billion in foreign currency reserves. So if you are China, that's got your eyes on Taiwan, if you're the Saudis who, have, again, like all of their assets denominated in dollar, if you are any country ever, I mean, even look at Europe, like they're supposed to be allies, but, there is strong evidence the US blew up Nord Stream. The writer who revealed that, he reported on like the My Lai massacre in like Vietnam and won a Pulitzer Prize. Like a Pulitzer Prize winning investigative journalist says the US did it, so I would trust him. But again, so if even the allies of the US can't trust the US, why in the hell? And bear in mind, over the past decade, the biggest buyer of US debt has been China. They do not buy US debt anymore, and they never will again. And the problem with the global financial system is that it is a Ponzi. And it's a Ponzi because what is a Ponzi scheme? A Ponzi scheme is a investment scheme which offers little or no risk and uses new people to the scheme to pay off the old people. I mean, that's exactly what the debt ceiling argument is. The fact is that we live in a perpetual debt system.
Yeah.
So we borrow money to pay off the debt and the interest from the previous ones. And so we need constant buyers of our debt, and the US needs it too. And Biden has just weaponized the dollar to make US denominated debt extremely unattractive for the whole world. Because why would you buy something that you can be weaponized against you in the future?
You wouldn't. Yeah. And that's like the IMF doing that. It's look, they should be a cause, an organization that's, they don't choose sides. They don't have favorites. They clearly chose Ukraine size. And I feel like there's a lot of countries that have done that, US included, that have like provoked Russia in a way, right? Like we've been provoking Russia. We've been sending, I mean, how many billions of dollars did the US send to Ukraine, right? Where we could have been using that money to help each other at home. But that's why the US, look, it's a great country to live in. But the fact that we always want to get our hands involved in every single conflict. I mean, Ukraine and Russia is on the other side of the world. It has nothing to do with the US, but we want to be that savior, that company, that country that's helping these people. Like, we always want to get involved.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily about like they want to give the illusion of helping. And somebody said just with the word J, dollar's been weaponized since inception, which is true, it has, but it hasn't been. It's been weaponized, of course, because it's always been the global reserve currency, and the US has known it. However, there's a big old difference between weaponizing where you exploit the fact that your currency is the global reserve currency and outright saying, we're freezing your dollars. You can't move your dollars anymore. That's weaponization of the fact that you know that it's the global reserve system and you are outright, there's subtle weaponization of the fact, like, yes, we're the biggest economy. We're going to show our big swinging dick about it. But there's also actual weaponization, which is the line that they crossed, where they basically, everyone has always known for ages that the IMF and the World Bank are just proxies of the US government, the US monetary system. It's been unwritten, everybody knows it, but they just actually, they showed it, which is they showed their hand. And that's the big mistake, because before they could give the illusion of, oh, we're independent, like, oh, we only loan all of our loans in US dollars because it's the global reserve one.
Yeah.
That was the excuse before. Now they don't have that excuse. They've shown that they're not independent. And that's the main thing. Of course, they have weaponized it before in the fact that they've used it as leverage. But yeah, it's very different now. But going on to this dollar milkshake theory, and funnily enough, what I tweeted before, which was this here. So everybody, this is, and talking about Bitcoin, in fact, this is the original question you asked about why I'm not bullish, is that everybody thinks that the stock market has been ripping, and that explains why Bitcoin has been ripping, because the Bitcoin is most correlated to the NASDAQ, and the NASDAQ, these 10 stocks here are 50% of the NASDAQ, and they've returned 88% of the gains that you've seen. So if tech is no longer
that's insane,
the meta, well, you know what, 495,
that's insane,
S&P 500, do you know how much they returned last quarter?
Out of 495?
No, as in, like, if you get rid of the top 5 companies in the S&P 500,
they probably did around the same, 90%.
0%.
The what? Top 5?
The actual return.
Oh, the actual return on the stock.
Actual return. So 495. The average performance of those is 0% return year to date.
That's crazy.
And bear in mind, the top 10, the mean return of, like, these. So imagine so the S&P 500 for the quarter delivered 4% return. So if all of that is 10 stocks, imagine how unhealthy the actual stock market is. Because if all of the returns are coming, those 10 companies make up 27% of the S&P 500, and they returned an average of 28% each in one quarter. So if 27% of the market is delivering at 28%, but the actual index only delivers 4%, the rest of it is doing utterly terrible.
Terrible.
And nobody sees that because everybody looks at the index. And the problem is, it's the exact same with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is most correlated to the NASDAQ, and those 10 companies there that make up 27% of the S&P make up 50% of the NASDAQ, those 10 companies. The NASDAQ 100, 50% is those. And if they start to underperform, then we're going to have this exact scenario, which is what we had over the weekend, where OPEC announced 1 million barrels per day cut, and oil is up 6% today. And that is why the NASDAQ is down 0.75%, and the US 30, which is the Dow Jones, the industrial index, is up 0.5, because the industrial index has got Exxon, it's got like all of the oil companies, and then the NASDAQ is the tech. And tech doesn't do well in inflationary environments, and energy, it's very, very inflationary.
I love this shit.
So everybody has bought all of this tech, and tech has gone up like 28%, these top 10 companies. And now we've got like 6% boost to oil today. And so everyone has just flooded into these at the very wrong time, and now they're going to suffer. So imagine if 88% of the gains have been from 10 tech stocks. If that flips, then you're going to have the exact same on the way down, and it will be very, very quick and very sudden. So the reason Bitcoin is up is because NASDAQ has been absolutely flying, because 50% of it is those big tech companies. But now that inflation and oil is coming back and ripping back, gasoline's up 5% already today. Inevitably, like, it's just going to come back down. And it's just this, like that Jenga GIF. It just, once it starts going, it will go. Actually, let me show you this. Here we go.
And welcome real quick to all the Degens. Welcome in, guys. Happy Monday. Bud Yeti's in here. Sebastian McDonald. I was in there with Rodney's stream. Great stream this morning. And thank you so much to Moses for the $10 Australian donation. I'll go ahead and ring this in a second, guys. If you're coming in, make sure to hit that thumbs up and let us know your thoughts on this conversation in the comments. One of my favorite shows, because Dom is like, he's a savant. Like, who's looking at the gas prices and all? Like, this, the guy loves this, man. And I'm excited to learn. So keep it going, Dom.
This
I'm very interested.
In saying tech will be back very soon. Again, you need to look under the hood. This is under the hood. This is the actual price to earnings valuation of the technology sector. It's already at all-time highs if you look at earnings. We are past the tech bubble peak in terms of earnings. They are already back. If you go by the actual fundamentals of the business, they're already at all-time highs. They passed it ages ago. Right now, this is bigger than the 2021 bubble if you look at earnings. So if you take out the fluff and take out the actual, like, you know, the future value that everybody prices into the market, and you look at the actual businesses, how much money the businesses are making now compared to the valuations now, compare that to 2021 peak, how much money they were making then compared to their valuations then. We are more overvalued now in technology than we were at all-time high when the S&P 500 was approaching 5,000. The S&P is 4,100 today.
So what does this mean? Do you just think that we're going to see a bubble pop for the tech stocks?
Absolutely. I mean, it's the argument was, and the reason why tech did well in the first quarter is because everybody thought that the global financial system was going to collapse. And because of that, everybody started pricing in interest rate cuts, because every time there's a financial crisis, the Fed cuts rates, and tech does well in a low interest rate environment.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? We didn't have a financial crisis, and inflation is just as bad now as it was before we went into that. So inevitably, everyone bought tech imagining that the Fed's going to pivot. Why would they pivot unless there's a crisis? In history, the Fed has never once pivoted unless there is a systemic risk environment. And funnily enough, systemic risk isn't bullish. People think it is. And in fact, another chart that I shared shows the actual performance of the pivot. Here we go. So, you know, everybody wants a pivot, and everyone's saying, you know, everyone's buying the pivot rally. This is the actual data. Every pivot in history, if you look at the performance of the stock market, overall, it's not even bullish. Like, look at 12 months out, one positive of 17.6, minus 31, minus 13, 12, minus 17, minus 23. 6 months, minus 3, minus 16, minus 6.5, 1, 11.1, minus 11, minus 13. This is what people are chasing. But people don't realize that interest rate cuts are never bullish. And that is because they don't cut rates unless there's a financial crisis. And a financial crisis in itself isn't a good thing. But people don't see that. And so the reason why tech has rallied and the NASDAQ is up 19% is because everyone thinks that they're going to cut rates. But unless something breaks, they won't cut rates. And if something breaks, the market will crash. The Fed does not pivot unless there's a systemic risk. And you won't see them pivot when you've got the S&P 500 at 4,100, because already you can see the impact of a weak dollar on metals. There's a reason why gold is at $2,000. Bear in mind, if you look at the gold chart, I'll just switch the screen to my right-hand screen.
Switch the monitors here. And Grillozo, I just saw your message. He said, y'all, please be careful. Open my trust wallet and everything was gone. Guess I got hacked. Took all 3 billion volt. Been sick to my stomach all day. Damn, dude, I'm fucking sorry to hear that. That's the one thing about crypto, Dom, is that it's so easy to hack shit. Like you can just click a link, or you could open up the wrong site, or like there's scammers that like call you, and you can literally click a link and they get access to your phone. So I'm sorry to hear that, Grillozo. That's terrible to hear, man.
It's the worst feeling.
I'm so sorry.
But yeah, if you look at the price of gold here, like you can see, like there's a reason why people say that gold is a hedge.
Yes.
And that's because we've got from like, well, what's that price increase? If we go here.
And what is this, like 20 years, 20 plus years?
So this is from.
Yeah, there's a real reason why people say it's a hedge. Look at it.
723%. So people. What
way.
we don't realize is it's not going to be like it's not like Bitcoin where everyone is wanting huge gains, but gold has a 5,000-year track record of holding its value, and that's why people buy it. But if you look, when did gold really start to accelerate? If you look at the actual like price graph, if you go down to like 2007 financial crisis, so metals react badly to a high risk environment. So a weak dollar is very good for metals, and that's why it's absolutely exploded, because it's been the financial system since 2008 has just been the financial system ended in 2008. What people don't realize is that it collapsed. It was over, and so everything since then has just been artificial. Complete manipulation. Like the only reason why anything has gone up in value is just the pumping of QE and asset prices and asset purchases. It was over then. Everything else is just it's just been theft since then. Just literally elites and bankers stealing from people and giving it to themselves. Everything has been artificial, and that's why you've seen such 215% in 7 years. And then you can move that to. It was now, then oh no, I've done it further there, and then you've had 162% in what's that, in like 4 years. So everything accelerated then because gold has been manipulated for so long. Like the amount that central banks have sold is insane. Whilst China, Russia, Bolivia, Venezuela have been hoarding gold, central banks in the West have been selling it. Why? Because if the gold goes up in value, it's very, very bad for the monetary system and for fiat currencies, because gold is a viable alternative. Bear in mind, in 1971, right, up until 1971, which isn't even long ago, in the economy and like human history, in 1971, Richard Nixon announced on TV that they were separating the US dollar from gold temporarily to protect against speculators.
Real quick, was that the gold standard, like how the US dollar was backed by gold? This is when they separated it?
Exactly, 1971. Richard Nixon.
The fact that you sorry to interrupt again, but just the fact that you have all this information in your head, I fucking love it. Like you're a savant.
Just know my economics and when everything went to shit.
Continue on, though. I want to hear this.
So 1971, Richard Nixon gets on TV and he says, we are protecting from speculators and we're temporarily removing the dollar from the gold standard. So speculators, funnily enough, 1970s, what was happening? Space program, very expensive.
Hippies.
Vietnam War, very, very expensive. And so the French realized first, they were the very first ones, they realized how were they affording this? Because obviously their currency was tied to gold. So if they were printing too much money and then people came to them and said, can I have my gold, please? Exchange my dollars for gold, which you could do. The French realized they might be spending more than their means. And obviously the US was and still is the biggest economy. So when the French got in a gunboat, came over from France, crossed the Atlantic in a gunboat, and came into New York Harbor and said, "Can we have our gold, please?"
Wow.
And what do you think the US said? They said no. And they separated it from the gold standard because they knew then and there that they would lose their title as the biggest economy in the world because they were spending more than the gold that they actually had.
Yeah. Which first off, though, it's like, how is that even possible? Like how can you physically?
As in, like, they were printing. They were
money
doing
that wasn't backed.
What is now normal. So
Yeah.
in 1944, after the Second World War, they decided we need a global reserve currency, and they decided on the dollar. And why did they decide on the dollar? Because it was as good as gold. They didn't choose gold because gold is massive and heavy. Why would you pick gold when you have a paper alternative which you can claim for gold? So they all picked the dollar because the dollar was as good as gold.
Yeah.
But in 1971, they took it off it. So every currency in history was pegged to the dollar before 1971, and the dollar was pegged to gold. Therefore, every currency in the world operated off a gold standard because every currency could be swapped for dollars and dollars could be swapped for gold. Richard Nixon got rid of that. And so ever since that point in time, every bank, every central bank in history has been free to print as much money as they want because there's nothing tethering it. The good thing about gold is that it kept corruption and governments in check. It meant that rather than them deciding what held value, it was tethered to something you had to dig out of the ground and expend labor for. If a country ever went over their means, people would know because you could claim the gold, and then the country would have to actually buy the gold that they overdid themselves for. Now we live in a world where there's nothing backing anything. It's all
crazy.
just printed by governments and banks, and this is why everything since 2009 has just been theft, because it's printed out of thin air. Nothing backs it, and it's only in the last 50 years that this has happened.
So, but it's just like when you say it in these terms, which I think are pretty simple terms for us to digest, it makes no sense. Like back in the day, it makes sense that if you had $100 of US dollars, it was backed by $100 bar of gold, right? Like that's how it was backed. But now is it backed by anything? Like what is the US dollar backed by? Just thin air? Nothing, right? You can just print. You should just print. You can just print as much as you want at any time.
Well, this is the problem with fiat currency, is that our monetary system and our money is controlled by the people who can print it. Before, it used to be controlled by how much gold they had. And as a sovereign individual, you could have gold yourself, and you knew that that was the exact same as the dollars or the pounds or anything else. You could opt out of the financial system because when it's attached to something tangible, you can collect something. So I can live out in the woods with my gold, and it's just as good as the dollars in my pocket because it all can be exchanged. Now, I cannot possibly escape the system because the system tells me what's valuable. And this is the problem. This is why we're in this massive authoritarian society, because funnily enough, if you give your governments and the elites the power to print to print and tell you what is valuable, of course they're going to abuse it. Like, the means of power is power. Like, there doesn't need to be a reason for people to do it. Just power alone is good enough for society for abuse. And of course, if the government has to have the gold to back up their currency, then that keeps them in check. As in, they just can't, if they ever do go out of control, then like the French tried to do, went over there in a gunboat and said, give us our gold. They didn't have it. But rather than everyone's saying to the US, give us our gold, they just let them detether it. And that detethered every single government in the world, because obviously every currency that wasn't the dollar was tied to the dollar, and the dollar was tied to gold. So once Richard Nixon cut that cord, every currency in the world became fiat and every currency became floating. And what happens after that? You need to remember that now everyone's currencies are only priced against each other. Before, they were priced against just one currency, the dollar. And that led to every country devaluing their own currency on purpose to become a more attractive trading partner. So the reason why the Japanese kept on printing yen, and they still print so much yen, is because their whole country runs on exports of TVs, products, electronics. And if the yen is weak, then they are much more attractive to trade with because my dollars buy more stuff. So every country now in history has devalued their currency by printing more of it so that they're more attractive to trade with. So it's just an endless race to the bottom. And then we're told that inflation is only 10%. It's bollocks. Like if you use the measurement they used before we got taken off the gold standard, we'd be over 20% inflation. But they changed the rules. And ever since 1971, that point in history was the end of the empire. That was the cord cut, game over. Like
For sure.
no currency ever has worked in history. Every single one has gone to zero. But we think that we can suddenly solve 2,000 years of economics because we got computers now, so we can do it. It's just all lies.
A terrible move by Richard Nixon in 71. And it led to where we're at today. I agree. It's like it's almost inevitable that at some point it's going to come crumbling down. And when you have powerhouses like Russia, China, Brazil, not even really Brazil, but these countries coming together to, what are they doing? Are they creating their own currency? Or are they just moving away from the US dollar?
Yeah, so they are creating their own currency, which is
insane. That's insane.
And it's going to be backed by gold and rare earth minerals.
For now.
Well, suddenly, if you know
that's crazy,
that I can either buy and trade with a currency that is going back to the gold standard, basically that I can trade and I can hoard this currency, which I know is as good as gold again, or you could trade the dollar that the Fed prints like it's monopoly money. Which one are you going to use? I'm not using the dollar.
Of course not.
Dollar will be, right now, everything is a giant Ponzi. But if somebody actually creates a viable alternative, like why would anyone use the dollar? And this is why I used to subscribe to the dollar milkshake theory. But the dollar milkshake theory is only good until people realize that it's not. And until there's a viable alternative. Everyone's saying, oh no, the yuan will be the next global reserve currency. It won't, because they print it like a Ponzi anyway. Like they're even worse. They're doing more easing than the US currently is. But if they suddenly create an actual currency where a normal human, a normal person that isn't the elites of society can give a bank or a broker one X currency and get X amount of gold or X amount of like minerals, silver back, then suddenly everybody will trade that currency. Because right now we are enslaved by debt, because the current monetary system, a fiat-based monetary system, works on debt, and it's a debt-based system. And it's a giant Ponzi because you always need new debt to service the old debt. And that's why throughout all of like human existence, you need people to take on more and more and more and more debt because they need to pay off the old debt. And as soon as it stops, it falls apart.
There's an attack on the dollar. So what does this mean as, for me? Because like we saw the Kenyan president say, dump your dollars. He was saying this. And I think it's because he knew that BRICS was coming. But all of these countries right here, look, just in Brazil, Russia, India, China. I like how first off, let me make fun of these guys for holding hands like that. Kind of funny. But Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, BRICS, are developing a new currency. What does this mean? If you had to predict, obviously you're not a fortune teller, but you're pretty damn accurate 99% of the time, Dom. What does this mean for the US dollar? What does this mean for the global economy? And what does this mean for, let's just say, me and maybe people in this chat that are Americans that hold the US dollar, that have, let's say, savings of the US dollars? Like, what does this mean? Is this the catalyst that will take down the US dollar?
Potentially. I mean, it depends completely on take up and also viability and whether the US actually allows it. Like there's huge political moves being made at the moment, which are completely. Tell you what, if I can find it, let's see if I can.
And chat, let me know what you guys think about this, guys, in the chat. For those that are here today, are you guys, or is this a good move? Do you think this is good? Are you scared of this, the powerhouse of BRICS? Let us know in the chat.
See if I can get on.
And we'll ask this question in a second. May you be well. He has a question for Dom regarding access to 50,000 yen a year. One.
Is it one? WUAN. China just limited access to 50k per year. Isn't this going to get rid of the need for QE? That's, I presume, on a that'll be on a personal level. And again, inflation isn't caused by retail. It's just bullshit. It's like what I saw the ECB put out. What's the cause of inflation? Is it profits or is it salaries? And like basically blaming inflation on employees asking for more money. And that's just the problem with this, the trickle-down economics or the horse and oats theory, is that by the time you've fed the horse all of the oats, the people at the bottom have to eat the shit in order to get it. And everything already passes through the monetary system. So the actual, like, the benefits, the assets have already increased in price before it leaks down to the people at the bottom. Still trying to find. The problem is with this. For some reason, on Twitter I can search my own profile and actually like search based on like words I've used, but I don't know how to do it on desktop. Oh, here we are. I've actually found this, and it's 5 minutes, but it explains like exactly what's been happening right now. I posted this back, when was it? March the 5th. But yeah, I mean, if you listen to parts of this, we can pause it in between for any questions. But it explains...
pull up your screen. It's not showing.
Oh, let me just.
Yeah, so you can pull it up. And Aaron, what's up, Aaron? Good morning to you. She said, I think it's time for change with all, in all caps, the financial systems. Got to go through the chaos to get order. That is very, very true. Hot take here from Aaron. All right, Dom, this is now showing. Let's go ahead and see it.
Yeah, so I mean, essentially, it's like the overall episode is posted below. Let me just pin this to my profile. So if anyone wants to check out the actual episode, it's pinned on my Twitter. But it's talking about if you were the US and you wanted to implement a CBDC, how would you go about doing it? And how would you provoke other countries to make it happen? Yeah. And this is basically this guy's a really well-known and good economist, and this is exactly how he describes he would do it.
How does all of this happen? I'll tell you exactly how. You blow assets up after you get COVID. You blow assets, or you blow prices up to all-time highs by injecting more money in the country in 3 years than it has printed in its entire history prior. You keep interest rates low, where you incentivize big funds to borrow money at next to nothing and put it into assets, stocks, bonds, real estate, everything. Blow them up to all-time highs. They can pay off those loans without even blinking an eye. Make huge bonuses from their commercial banks. Drive the prices of everything sky high. And then what? You incentivize Russia into finding a backdoor by weaponizing the dollar. And everyone else, look at China. They've sold 100 billion of our bonds in the last 6 months, and their eyes are on Taiwan. You think they'll ever buy our bonds again? If they're thinking, are we next? Are they going to freeze our assets? Are they going to sanction us? No, they're not. And so here's how it happens. All it really takes, and I'd like your comment on this, is for Saudi Arabia, who's now being protected by Russia, Nigeria, who's now being protected by Russia, is part of the Belt Road Initiative, so also being protected by China. The Russia-China relationship never has been stronger. The BRICS coalition has never been stronger. Now Saudi Arabia joins BRICS and says, thanks for the memories, guys. Yep. It's been great, but we're now going to issue oil globally in rupee, in ruble, in gold, in euro, okay, and in dollars too. And if you remember that every country on the planet Earth has had to own dollars to buy oil for the last 50 years, when this admission happens, and I believe it'll happen on a Sunday night here in the United States, Monday morning, all of the leaders of the BRICS nations will be arm in arm with their arms around each other saying, we have now issued a new world reserve currency, which they already did. You got the success of the Chinese digital yuan, a yuan who's done almost 20 billion in sales successfully, starting in the Winter Olympics for the past few years on the Belt Road. And I think they will all use the success of this new distributed ledger technology and issue a new BRICS currency. It'll be a digital currency. The question is, do they peg gold to it? Because remember, gold has been reclassified a tier 1 asset. Why did they do gold? Why not the special drawing rights? Why gold? Who are the biggest producing countries in the world of gold? The RICS and BRICS, Russia, China, India, and South Africa as well. Russia, China, India, South Africa. You throw Brazil in there. Now you've got all of these other countries that are joining, Venezuela and Iran and Saudi Arabia. And all of these countries are accumulating gold. Are they going to peg it to gold, to a new world reserve currency denominated in, backed on the new success of the Chinese digital yuan? Are they going to do that? Or is that going to come after Saudi Arabia says we're going to issue all of these, we're going to sell oil in all of these currencies? But what happens? Here's what happens. Every currency on the planet starts to dump dollar. Every country on the planet starts to dump dollars. Why do they dump dollars? Because they don't need to buy oil with it anymore. They've had to hold it as the foundation of their currency forever to buy oil. Now they don't have to, and they can use other currencies. So as they start to dump dollars, the dollar becomes a hot potato. By Monday morning, you have a flood of dollars as every country is racing, just like in trading places. Sell, Mortimer, sell. They're going to be telling us, sell, sell, sell. Everyone's dumping dollars. The dollar comes home and it's collapsed, right? There's pillar number 1, the dollar crashes. When the dollars come home, it creates massive hyperinflation, much worse than what the Fed has any intention of fighting, right? So hyperinflation, what happens to interest rates? Does the dirty work directly for the Fed. Interest rates spike to the moon. What happens to stocks, bonds, and real estate? They vaporize in a matter of minutes. So when you talk about the Great Reset and you see the moving away from the dollar, when you see that what is basically happening is almost 90% of human population, when you factor in the Belt Road Initiative is 75%, and that's just China and Africa, you throw in the rest of the countries that are part of this, you're talking the majority of the human population on this planet is moving away from the dollar, learning settlement on a new digital yuan that could very well become a digital BRICS currency, that could very well be pegged on a distributed ledger. It won't be convertible, because de Gaulle from France proved that convertible currencies convert, but will be pegged using distributed ledger technology by the largest importers, producers, and owners of gold in the world. And they will peg gold to a new distributed ledger technology and watch what happens to the dollar in a matter of moments. It's your Great Reset, where all 4 pillars of wealth in this country simultaneously collapse: stocks, bonds, real estate, and the dollar. Now, I would like to ask you, am I off base? Am I smoking something? Or does this sound like something that is not only plausible, but maybe even it's happening?
Wow.
It literally is what is going on right now. As in, if you look at the dollar, if you look at like the global order, like you can see it like taking place like in front of us. Like what can the US do about it? The only thing that they can do about it is I just don't see how they can't eventually bring in the military. Like what can they do to stop it?
In what way? Like, what would they do? War?
Just war. Just try and
It's the only way to stop it.
blow themselves out of it, or nukes. Because what can they do to actually stop this advancing? What can you do apart from go to war and fight and kill your adversary? Because you can't stop. Like, what are you going to say to? They're already at war with Russia through a proxy war. The only thing that they can do with China is to, more sanctions. And sanctions, when have they ever done anything? Like, all they can do is either their current strategy, which is to basically be on the edge with China and try and hope that China, doesn't go over to Russia, but they already are. What can you do? Like, you can't do anything to stop it. So you either have to accept it and accept that you will no longer be the, global reserve currency. You'll no longer be the world order. Or do you nuke them, take out your adversary? And right now, this proxy war in Ukraine and the undying support for it very much indicates that they will go down, screaming and fighting.
Yep. And maybe also, if this is happening, what time frame and where put money now before it happens?
Well, this is the reason why I think that Balaji guy has said about Bitcoin to 1 million in 3 months, because
What's up, Bree?
right now it's not, Bitcoin has not caught up and become mainstream enough that it has taken up the same mantle as gold and silver. So it's supposed to. This is why it was created by Satoshi after 2008 as a way to escape the monetary system.
Yeah.
However, it hasn't had that adoption. So if you speak something enough into existence, it can be a self-fulfilling prophecy. So this is why I think he did it. I think he realized that we won't see hyperinflation within 3 months, like he said. We probably will see it within like 12. So what can you do if you know that you haven't got the mainstream adoption yet? How can you get it? Well, if hyperinflation comes and you make enough noise about Bitcoin being an asset that fights against this, when it comes and people start thinking, where can I put my money? Is it into gold? Is it into silver? Yes, they have a 5,000-year track record that you can trust. So I highly recommend everybody to get gold and silver. Whether it's, I'd always recommend, same as crypto, not your keys. If you don't have it physically, like store it in a safe. Because if you're trusting someone else to have it, if shit hits the fan,
It's not yours. Yeah, it's not yours. Where's the best place to buy it? Because most people don't even know where to buy gold. Where can I buy gold today?
Just look online. Like there's like bullion dealers. Like you'll find there's a lot of communities who do this. Like there's, especially in the US with like the preppers and stuff that you guys get. There's a hell of a lot of more places than
JM Bullion.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the thing is like, how do you know if it's like? Can you trust these to make sure they're real?
You need to just do your own research, same way, like look at like reviews and everything like that. Go on to like Trustpilot and just basically double check, call them, check that someone answers the phone, etc., etc. Like, but yeah, I mean, I've bought lots of true pure like gold, silver, store it in like safe and like get everything like that. But it's all discreet delivery and stuff. Don't tell anyone where you keep it, where your stuff is. Like keep it separate from you if you can. Like for example, someone you trust, don't store it with you, etc. Like all the normal precautions you'd have to any of your valuables, to be honest. But look, at the end of the day, I would love for Bitcoin to take up its mantle as an inflation hedge. And I believe that it might do. But I think that the time is running away from us in terms of like the collapse of the US dollar. It is, as in the reason why I prefer gold to silver in this scenario is that it's more valuable. So therefore, less of it costs less of it. You can store more of it for less money. And that's why it's attractive to central banks and attractive to institutions, because a kilogram of gold is worth like, X amount compared to silver, which is like a kilogram is worth thing. And obviously, they are the same size, but one's worth much more, which is why gold is more valuable than silver. The only difference with silver is that silver actually has utility.
Yeah.
If it was a crypto, gold doesn't have any utility beyond like looking nice in your MetaMask, but silver is actually used in the real world, especially in renewable energy. So silver is much more like in a proper shit hit the fan scenario, it won't increase in value as much as gold, because gold is much easier to store and buy if you're an institution, because it's much more expensive. Again, like platinum, for example, is the same. But yeah, unfortunately, I would love to say that Bitcoin hasn't been tried and tested. Like I say, I love gold and silver because
track record,
5,000 years. Like what can you possibly point to that's held its value throughout all of human civilization and has outlasted every currency in existence? Thousands and thousands of currencies. Like we've lived over 100 years with the dollar. Like that's nothing. So again, this is why I say gold and silver. And what Balaji is doing is good, admirable, clever. I really, really hope that Bitcoin does do exactly what it's supposed to. But obviously, I own all three. But yeah, get some gold and silver as well, because you know for a fact that if the lights go out, like that is holding its value, and that people will accept it. It's the fallback means of currency throughout every currency in existence. Whenever the world goes wrong, gold and silver is still worth, its like weight in gold. That's why it's literally the phrase. So Bitcoin, I would love it to. It might do if people can speak it into existence quick enough, or this scenario happens, not over, like, you see how quick, AI and like everything is going nowadays.
Fast.
It can be, Bitcoin could actually take up that mantle a lot quicker than we thought, and I hope it does, but it hasn't been tested yet. Since 08, we haven't had a financial crisis. We've had upsets, COVID, but not proper, everybody hates the banks and everybody is detesting government crisis. We haven't had that. So fingers crossed, hopefully it can. Enough people know about crypto and enough people know that it's supposed to be an inflation hedge, because people make jokes about how the fact it's supposed to be an inflation hedge, but inflation's gone up and it's down 75%. But even knowing those jokes and people taking the piss, it's all all publicity is good publicity for Bitcoin, to be honest. Because when things start going badly, and that's why I don't believe that this pump has been organic, this recent one.
You think it was manipulated?
Yeah, I believe it's manipulated. I think that there's an element of cascading stop losses because everyone was bearish, but I don't trust the way that it's played out at the top. It's very manipulated. There's definitely an element of it that was just too many people bearish and too many people short, and therefore as those stops close, it buys it higher. But I believe that, bear in mind, Balaji is rumored to be the biggest individual holder of Bitcoin that's not an institution.
And what was his quote? He said that Bitcoin's going to go to $1 million in 3 months.
3 months, and he bet people $1 million.
But it's like, when I saw that, I laughed. I was like, "There's no chance."
Well, yeah, exactly, and that's why it got tons of news, because everyone was saying, this person is betting $1 million to anybody that Bitcoin will get to this amount in 3 months. It's ridiculous, and that means that everyone will talk about it, and therefore he's speaking it into existence about Bitcoin is a hedge against inflation. That guy bet this. Everyone remembers that, and because it's so ridiculous, it spreads faster. But yeah, I mean, if he is rumored to be the individual largest holder of Bitcoin that isn't an exchange, isn't a corporation, and that means that his wallet alone is going to be worth tons. And the thing is, remember, Apple was worth 3 trillion, Amazon was worth 2 trillion. Both of those single stocks, twice the market cap, just those stocks of Bitcoin, more than that, 2-3 times. In traditional finance and in the world of everything, Bitcoin is such a tiny cap. It's just not big. And therefore, a few people can manipulate the price. And if you believe in Bitcoin so much that you want it to be a hedge against inflation, and you see a banking and financial crisis, if you could manipulate the price higher in order to actually, show it working as you want it to work in the future, would you do it? I certainly would. I would make sure that it pumps whenever banks fail, and I would make sure that people see it as a hedge against inflation, and I would make sure that people see that panic equals higher Bitcoin. That is what I would do. However, any artificial pump, it's not necessarily sustainable. And so you can only hold the tide so long. And when real panic sets in, then you won't be able to control it anymore. So I believe that it's been very clever what's been done, and I admire for doing it. But unfortunately, we haven't escaped, gravity. Gravity will come at some point, and it will drop. But I can see why the sentiment behind it was, and a lot of people think it's organic, and an element of it was, like I say, from things. But yeah, I would still recommend get but 1 million in hyperinflation, dollars worthless, correct. But he isn't saying and he's if you look at a few YouTube videos that he did with Pankless and others, he says it there. He's not saying that Bitcoin is going up to 1 million, more like the dollar is coming down so much that because the dollar is worthless, 1 Bitcoin is still 1 Bitcoin. So he's he's not bullish that people will be buying necessarily, and that it will be buy pressure that pushes it that high. He's thinking more that the dollar will deflate in value so quickly that it becomes worthless compared to Bitcoin. So it's not necessarily, it's like a meeting in the middle. Basically, you've got Bitcoin to 1 million, and then you've got dollar to 0, and then it just meets like this.
So crazy. More questions. We have some good questions. Coffee and Crypto said this was dark today. Yeah, but it's dark, but it's like it's stuff that people want to hear. And that's why the show's growing every week, is people want to hear this type of information, because not everybody's talking about it, you know. A lot of people, myself included, in other streams, we talk about all the good news and stuff, and it's like this is stuff that's typically backed by facts. Mark with a good question: can gold and silver go Web3 blockchain digital somehow?
Well, yeah, there's already Paxos Gold, which you can buy on like decentralized exchanges, Binance, like stuff.
Do you get it physically?
That's the problem.
I wouldn't want that. I don't want that.
Any tokenized gold and silver is that you still need to rely on the person you're buying it from actually having it and storing it.
I don't want that. I don't want that. I want, like, if I'm buying gold, I want physical gold that I can keep in a safe. Like, it would be cool if you could register it on the blockchain, but I want it physical too.
Yeah,
that's what I would want. Let's see, any other questions here? It might be dark, but this is where conspiracy theories become less of a theory.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is the problem. Like, trust me, I know that my views make me sound like an absolute lunatic. And people who don't give it the time of day to actually listen to the facts, they think that it's all like just lies made up. Like, no, of course, like the dollar's not going to go into hyperinflation. But then you actually outline them like A to Z, the steps to take it there, why it's been going on for so long. It's not just an immediate thing, and you actually show people that there is OPEC, they call themselves a cartel because they control the actual the price of oil. A cartel manipulates the price of something. Drug cartels, oil cartels, that is what a cartel is. But this is the thing, like, there's so many steps to it, and it's such a macro picture. In fact, I've been locked in a shed. I only just got out. It was an April Fool's joke gone wrong.
No way.
It's all linked. Everything is interconnected, but people are blind to believing that just everything is like fine.
I like it, dude. This is how my brain's always worked. And even last week, I don't think we talked about crypto at all. We talked about the fall of empires, and that shit was one of my favorite episodes. Like, because it's like, this is stuff that you never expect. Like, I live in America, right? You live in England, and England used to be the largest conquerors of the world, and now they're a small island. But I live in America, and everybody thinks that we're so strong, we're so powerful, like we'll never fail. But just all you have to do is take a quick look at the Roman Empire, and that will do enough. Like, that will open your eyes to what's out there. So I love it. Sure, it's dark, but it's also necessary to hear. And I think that's the show, Dom. Anything else we want to cover?
No, I'm dying to lose, so I need to jump.
Perfect. He's taking off, guys. I'm taking off. Thank you guys so much for joining us here today. We'll be back next Monday. Enjoy the week. Enjoy April. No more April Fool's jokes. And we'll see you guys next Monday. Thanks so much, everybody. Peace. Bye.